This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by Richie Woodhall here at the weigh-in for Beterbiev-Yarde. Richie, firstly, how are you? It's actually been quite a while now since we last saw each other.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Had a good Christmas and New Year and relaxed a lot. So and now back to it now, all steam ahead. Full steam ahead, should I say.
Back to it and full steam ahead indeed, and we see potentially a new British champion on Saturday night in Anthony Yarde when he challenges Artur Beterbiev for his unified light heavyweight crown. Richie talked about this fight. From your perspective, what does Anthony have to do to be successful?
I think it's a really hard fight. He's up against it, there's no doubt about it, but if you go back to 2019 when he was beaten by Kovalev, going into that fight, although he looked explosive and he looks impressive every time he boxes Anthony Yarde, but going into that fight, he's probably fairly inexperienced against that calibre of opponent. Since then, he's also had another defeat against Lyndon Arthur. But I think he's learned from the defeats, and I think he's a much better boxer now, having those two defeats, and then obviously get back to winning ways in his last contest. So yes, I think he's better equipped and better prepared for this world title shot than he was the first one against Kovalev, and that's why I think he's got a great chance of winning.
Heading into this fight, most people I've spoken to, well, if everyone in fact is not expecting it to go far. They're expecting maybe 6-7 rounds and the fight will be over, whether it be Yarde who comes out on top or Beterbiev. Do you echo those calls, Richard?
No, I think it'll go longer than that myself. They're both big punches, yes, but they're both very fit guys. They both seem to have good chins, and it might be a bit of a chess match early on. Everyone's expecting fireworks early, but that might not be the case. Sometimes it doesn't work out like that. Yes, they both will catch each other with big punches, but they're fit kids, so I think it will go long. I do personally. I can see Anthony Yarde maybe winning this contest, but like I say, I think it will go long and it'll be a hard fight for both of them.
I've seen some people suggest that for Yarde to have success, he needs to look at how Callum Johnson approached the fight when he fought him. He hurt Beterbiev earlier. Now, I know you're saying you expect it to go longer, but do you see where people are coming from? Do you think that's something that Anthony needs to look to and maybe bring into his game plan tomorrow night?
It's a possibility, but if you look, I've watched Artur Beterbiev in his last 3 or 4 fights. 2 of his last 3 fights have been against southpaws, so that's hard to gauge, that is, because it's a different style, different opponent, and he's had problems getting to the southpaw. So, you know, Yarde isn't a southpaw, orthodox, but if you watched him against Alexander Gavodstik, then he had problems boxing at range. You've got to keep him at mid to long range, Beterbiev, because you've got to limit that short and mid range boxing what he's best at. That's where his strength, his bent arm work, right hand over the top especially, left uppercuts on the inside, he's accurate, he's powerful. But if you don't allow him to be in that position, and if you keep him longer, then he struggles a little bit. He finds it more difficult to actually gain that inside position. So Yarde's got a great jab. If he can box more mid to long early in the contest and frustrate Beterbiev, then make him come forward, because Yarde likes people to come forward, and because he gets the right hand over the top himself. What he's got to avoid is overstretching, overreaching. Beterbiev is a better boxer than what people give him credit for. He's good with his jab, but I see if Anthony Yarde can box at mid to long range, then I think he'll have more success. That's why I think it'll be a longer fight.
On the Beterbiev front, Richie, what does he have to do to make sure that he retains his unified crown?
Short to mid-range work, that's where his strength is. You know, he's on that front foot. Like I just said, he's better with his jab than what people give him credit for. He gains that inside position with a good double jab. He's fast feet in. If you watch him the way his movement, he'll move left and right. He'll circle round to the right, and then it's fast feet in with the right hand over the top occasionally as well. You know, he's a class act. You've got to remember, he's a double Olympian. He's been brought up in a Russian system where it's really difficult and hard to box for Russia. As an amateur, you have got to be, and be successful, you have got to be very good indeed. He's probably had over 250 international contests. That then set him up for that engine that he's got. That's why, you know, he's gone into relatively 12-round contests early on in his career with no problems at all. I think Beterbiev just got to do what he does. He's got to get to Yarde. He's got to close that gap down. That's going to be the problem with him if Yarde produces that good jab, because he'll obviously have to close that gap. But Beterbiev, we know what he's all about. If he gets to you, then he's the boss, and that's what he's got to do.
Away from that main event, one other man I want to get your thoughts on is Moses Itauma. He quickly went through those amateur ranks and he's turned over now as a pro. Just from your knowledge of him, what should everybody expect?
I think he's a fantastic prospect, very, very young. He wants to break Mike Tyson's record, doesn't he? What is it, 20 years and 4 months or something like that, Tyson, of being the youngest heavyweight champion. I think he's got the skills and the power certainly to do it. I think he's got to be well managed though, because he's a youngster. Don't want to push him too quickly. But at the end of the day, yeah, he's one hell of a prospect, and for BT Sport, it's a great addition to the Queensberry camp.
Obviously, I know you still work with GB. Richie, I know you never crossed over to that. He was boxing for England, but did you ever cross paths with him?
No, because he was a youngster. He was in the youth system, you see. So he boxed more in the youth side of it. And I'm GB, the senior squads. So never come across him. Obviously, I've seen him box, and I was very impressed with him. He's got good skills, decent power. Being a southpaw as well, he can be a nightmare to box against. But yeah, he's explosive, and he's going to go a long way.
Away from Moses, just a few other thoughts. Sticking with the heavyweights, Anthony Joshua is out in America now. Seems like he's teamed up with Derrick James. Just get your thoughts on that decision on his behalf.
Yeah, a bit surprised. Obviously, you know, I've worked with Rob McCracken, his trainer, for years and years, and I was a bit surprised that AJ moved on, but that's his choice. Wish him luck. But for me, Rob McCracken was the right man for Anthony Joshua, and let's just hope that Josh produces the goods and can continue in his career. But like I say, I think it was disappointing from my point of view. I thought he should have stayed with Rob.
After the split from Rob, he went and teamed up with Robert Garcia and Angel Fernandez, or kept Angel Fernandez on board rather, and now he's going and floated about again with American trainers, teaming up with Derrick James. Richie, can that create a confusion for a fighter if they're constantly on the move, looking for perfection?
Well, I think one thing it does show is that he's probably he's not happy if he keeps chopping and changing. He wants something he's not quite fulfilled, and he wants someone to satisfy his needs in terms of the boxing training. So, you know, he's obviously not happy, and so he's moved trainers again. I think he's late in his career, isn't he? There's an old saying, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. He is what he is. I think he can improve here and there. But like I say, I think he should have stayed with his first trainer personally. But good luck to him, you know what I mean?
Jermaine Franklin seems to be next up for him. Now, many people felt he did enough just to edge the fight against Dillian Whyte last year. What are your thoughts if that one is deemed to be true?
Say that again.
What are your thoughts if we see Joshua Franklin next?
Yeah, good. I think it's a good fight for Josh. I think Anthony Joshua's got the power to knock any heavyweight out. You know, he's got to be in the right frame of mind, and if he's in the right condition, then he's going to be a problem for anybody in the world. So I think against Franklin, it'll be an exciting fight. He's got the power, and I see Josh knocking him out.
Everybody's expecting the Fury-Usyk undisputed battle to go ahead this year. Richie, don't know when it can happen. So as you're here, what are your thoughts on it? How does it play out?
It's a fantastic fight, it really is. I think for all the titles to be on the line, to get an undisputed champion. I've said all along, I think Fury's just a little bit too big for him. Usyk's movement is going to be a problem for Fury at times, but I think, you know, Fury's the master at sorting out sort of every style that's in front of him, and I think as good as Usyk is, he probably will just come up a little bit too short in that performance against Fury. I think Fury will win the fight. I think he'll bring him on to punches at the end of the day. Like I said early on, Usyk might be a problem because of his movement, but Fury always finds a way just to work out the opponent's style and get the job done. And I see him winning again, either on points or knocking him out.
Last week, Richie, boxing returned to the UK, and we saw a stunning stoppage victory from Liam Smith against Chris Eubank Jr. What did you make of that?
I thought it was a great performance from Liam Smith. You know, all the Smiths are really good technical fighters. They've got power. You know, they come from a great tradition, a family tradition. Eubank, I thought, would have done a little bit better, being, he obviously fought at a weight higher, and I expected the fight to go a little bit longer. But all credit to Liam Smith, he was up for it. He hit him with good shots. And yeah, I was a little bit surprised that Eubank went down the way he did, and he didn't recover. But at the end of the day, you've got to give great credit to Liam Smith. Like I say, technically very good and good power as well. So it was a great win.
It's came out since just yesterday, in fact, that Eubank Jr.'s team's considering an appeal against the result because of an alleged elbow which caught Jr. when Liam was throwing a hook and just missed him. What are your thoughts on that?
You're clutching at straws, really, to be quite honest. I think the writing was on the wall once he landed that first good shot anyway. A fight's a fight. If you get caught with a stray elbow, this, that, and the other, I don't think it was intentional. If he did get caught, it's just one of those things. Like I say, a fight is a fight at the end of the day. And if it's happened, it's happened. But I hope they get the rematch on. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see which weight that they actually box at next time. But like I said, you can't take nothing away from Liam Smith. He did the business. It was a massive fight for both of them. I still rate Eubank. He's a good kid. But on that night, it was Liam Smith's night.
Can he reverse the result, or does he have to move up in weight then?
Well, I think the weight is going to be an issue for him, and if they have to drop down and weight again, I can only see one winner again, Liam Smith. But Liam now has got probably the psychological advantage of getting that victory over him. And for Eubank, he's got to recover psychologically as well, which might not be easy. So it's going to be very difficult, I think, for Eubank. But he's still a good kid. We know that, Eubank. We know he's strong. The weight thing is going to be a big issue for the next fight. But Liam Smith, for me, if it's at the same weight, I think there's only, again, the same winner.
Right, Richie, we'll leave that there now because I imagine you've got to go live soon. So thank you for speaking to me. It's good to see you as always.
No problem. All the best.